Adventure games have always been quite niche when compared to other video game genres. Many of the point-and-click kinds were exclusively for the computer, but they still found a lot of success in the 80s and 90s with games like Myst, King's Quest, and Secret of Monkey Island. Around the late 2000s, early 2010s, adventure games saw a steady decline for various reasons. For one, gamers' taste had changed. Other genres such as first-person shooters and computer role-playing games were taking full advantage of the graphical capabilities of PCs and were providing players with more complex storytelling too. There was also the closure of two of the biggest studios that exclusively made adventure games, Sierra Entertainment and LucasArts. Even though there were a few games from smaller independent companies that sold really well up until the 2010s, when it came to the wider gaming community, adventure games were considered a dead genre, until it was resurrected. Telltale Games was a video game studio founded back in 2004. For 8 years, they released adventure games based on licensed properties. They were well known among fans of adventure games and had caught the attention of fans of the IPs that they were adapting. But on the 24th of April 2012, the company struck gold when they released Telltale's The Walking Dead game. The timing was perfect. The Walking Dead was a graphic novel that had a dedicated fan base, and the franchise had seen an astronomical growth due to the wildly popular and critically acclaimed television adaptation on AMC. This was also during the heights of YouTube's Let's Players, who helped boost the game's notoriety, causing it to spread through word of mouth across the internet. People who had never heard of the adventure game genre before were now counting down the hours for the release of each new episode. It was revolutionary with how it built upon all that came before with point-and-click adventure games specifically. The story was rich and emotionally engaging. The dialogue options were timed. The devs wanted you to make snap decisions that you had to live with over the course of the game. There were even consequences for not reacting in time, and silence was an option too. Characters would continue to have a conversation without your input, and sometimes your silence would speak more volume. There was such a great emphasis on choice, or the illusion of choice. That little notification at the top of the screen made you question every action. The Walking Dead went on to win multiple game awards, including 2012's Game of the Year, beating out Mass Effect 3, Assassin's Creed, Journey, and Dishonored. Adventure games had reached a level of mainstream popularity within gaming that was never seen before. This was in part due to Telltale taking full advantage of the online component with the episodic release schedule. At the end of each episode, you could see a breakdown of the choices that other players had made. It also built hype and speculation for the next episode, which further grew the fan base. The Telltale tool, the game engine that all Telltale games were made with, allowed for games to be released on multiple different platforms, which made the games incredibly accessible. My mum was completely engrossed in playing The Wolf Among Us on her iPad, which to me showed how appealing these games were to experienced and inexperienced players alike. Telltale would go on to lead a new era of graphic adventure games. It told the industry that there was an audience who were hungry for interactive, story-rich games, which led studios to really invest in them and for developers to turn towards crowdfunding to successfully meet their goals. By 2018, there was greater competition from other studios. Telltale saw a decline in sales and critical reception as players grew bored by the predictability of gameplay and story beats. While there may have been gamers that were content with the unchanging formula, it wasn't enough to sustain the company. There were also many internal problems that caused Telltale Games to shut down. I highly recommend you watch NoClip's documentary to learn everything that led to the studio's demise from the people who worked there. LCG Entertainment would go on to buy the rights for Telltale Games. Despite announcing the highly anticipated Wolf Among Us sequel and releasing a new game, it's clear that they have not been able to reach the same heights as they did in the past, seeing as most of their staff had moved on to more greener pastures. When original Telltale closed in 2018, it left a void that gamers wished to be filled by another studio that specialized in adventure games. And for some, there was only one studio that made a suitable candidate. Don't Nod released the first episode of Life is Strange in 2015, and it was special. It was obviously compared to the Telltale model of graphic adventure games. There was just no denying the similarities. The episodic release schedule and the notification at the top of the screen when choices were made. As for differences though, Life is Strange was an original story that leaned on introspection and surrealism. They also didn't have a timer for dialogue choices. The devs wanted you to take your time and really ruminate on every single decision. Life is Strange saw major success, and when the final episode was released, everyone waited excitedly for what Don't Nod would release next. To the surprise of some Life is Strange fans, it wasn't a point-and-click adventure game. It was an action RPG that was co-produced and published by Focus Home Entertainment. This wasn't surprising to me, as I was aware of Don't Nod way before Life is Strange, as I had bought their previous game, Remember Me. Remember Me wasn't received well upon release, which caused Don't Nod to restructure their entire business model and rethink the type of games they would develop, which led to Life is Strange. Now, while Vampire was a modest success, Don't Nod would go on to release more graphic adventure games, Life is Strange 2, Tell Me Why, and Twin Mirror. Cut to December 2023, Don't Nod dropped a teaser trailer for their upcoming adventure game, Resurrects Bloom and Rage, that was hinted at being a spiritual successor to Life is Strange, since Square Enix owns the rights to the franchise and had given the studio Deck 9 the keys in developing new entries in the series. There was a lot of positive buzz surrounding this new game, and it was well received upon release. Don't Nod is back, was the consensus I saw, but Don't Nod hadn't left. They hadn't stopped developing and publishing games. Harmony, Fall of the Reverie, Jusant, and Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. At a glance, these three games differ greatly from the games that released prior. They aren't choice-heavy graphic point-and-click adventure games, which showed that Don't Nod didn't want to just make one type of game. They wanted to diversify. Even when we look back at their first three games that they released, they were all different. But there is no denying that one game sold more than the others, which probably encouraged them to continue developing similar styled adventure games from 2018 to 2020, and thus it became what fans expected from them. The games released between 2023 and 2024, I didn't see the same excitement for them before release, and I noticed that people didn't really talk about them being Don't Nod games. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden was the second game Don't Nod developed that was published by Focus Home Entertainment, and it was spoken of as a spiritual successor to their first collaboration, Vampire. Now, while I personally enjoyed the game, Banisher's was a little bit of a flop. It failed to meet sales expectations, which has led Don't Nod to restructure again to make games that appeal to a wider audience. Their next game looks to be a science fiction horror. I'm not too sure what genre it is. But I took a look at the comments where the trailer was posted to, and unsurprisingly, people were bringing up Life is Strange and Don't Nod's other adventure game titles, hoping that the company would focus on making those types of games instead. Now, while some studios are happy to specialize in making games of one genre, like Supermassive for instance, Don't Nod clearly doesn't want to. So, who will pick up the mantle that Telltale dropped? Who else but a studio made up of former Telltale devs?
You need to get the fuck out of here. No, we can do this the easy way.
Sorry, which way was that?
AdHoc Studio was founded in 2018 by former devs of Telltale Games, Ubisoft, and Night School Studio. I first heard of them working with new Telltales to develop Wolf Among Us 2, and while that game was still in development hell, they released Dispatch, an adventure game / interactive TV show that combines workplace comedy with superheroes. You play as Robert, a former superhero working as a dispatcher, sending the right heroes to where they are needed. I loved the game, played it twice, and once I get my console back, I'll play it again. It felt familiar. It had all of the mechanics that Telltale had gotten players used to. Quick time events, so-and-so will remember that, a timer on the dialogue tree. But AdHoc introduced new mechanics than what audiences were probably expecting of them. Yes, it's an adventure game, but it wasn't a point-and-click one. It leaned more into the interactive film or TV show aspect, centering more on the dialogue choices, and it was more puzzle-focused too. Dispatch was a huge success, positively received by gamers and critics. Not bad at all for a small indie studio's debut game, especially since they were facing closure not too long ago. The success of Dispatch has people wondering what's next for AdHoc Studio besides The Wolf Among Us 2. Well, they would be continuing their partnership with Critical Role to develop a game set in Exandria. I am looking forward to it, and I wonder how different it would be in comparison to Dispatch. Expectations are high, but I don't think the audience should expect another Dispatch. For all we know, AdHoc's next game could resemble Oxenfree. Considering that one of the many problems at Telltale was stagnation of game design, they might want to show the world that they could switch it up and do something completely different. So yes, this is something I have noticed since Telltale Games shut down, people wanting a new Telltales, and since new Telltale is not delivering on that, they are seeking that similar gameplay elsewhere, and the studio that they are hoping to give it to them may not want to do that all the time. I suppose with how the games industry is moving the last few years, I am much more invested in what indie studios are doing, and I want studios to be able to experiment with a variety of genres and mechanics and art styles and so on, and not stick with what audience expect of them, unless of course that's what they want, of course. And hopefully gamers are not too dismissive of that. Even though many fans of Stardew Valley are looking forward to Concerned Ape's next game, Haunted Chocolatier, there is a good chance that it won't be exactly like Stardew Valley. From the tiny teaser trailer that was put out, there is a possibility that this could be a game that is more combat focused. We don't really know yet. I guess when it comes to smaller dev teams, it's good that we allow for more grace and space, and to also temper expectations. This goes doubly so for the game Paralives, because my goodness, the expectations for that game are through the roof right now just because of everything going on with EA. I don't even know where I'm going with this video. It started off as a TikTok, but I just kept on talking, so hopefully this made some sense to you. Goodbye. As always, thank you to everyone on Patreon. Cheyenne Lynn, Ariana Hook, Kemi, Mariah, Y Zaid, Desin Hill, Richard Campbell, Critica, Hyphenated, Go Love, Amrit S, Isabel A. Ledger, Mapertuous, Super Keeg, Mox, Work Nesh Tesfaye, Neek, and Sunshine.